We have to record everything. Again. You're listening to America's most recorded podcast. Pod people. I'm Wreck-It Tease. 2.
I'm Ben Sheets, and I got that demon slug in me.
Hi, I'm Cleveland Mosher, and I'm ready to wreck up to the streets.
We're all wrecking up to the building in this episode of the podcast. Our first Patreon pick of 2024.
Hell yeah.
This week.
Let's go.
This pick came courtesy of the honorary pod boy Sam.
Thank
Shout
you,
out.
Sam.
We're covering Wreck 2, the sequel to Wreck, which was, I think, also a Sam Patreon pick a couple of years ago now that we covered that. The famous, classic, iconic Spanish found footage film.
I want to say before we even had a Patreon, Sam recommended Veronica to you, and that's how we ended up watching that one. Right?
No.
Veronica?
No, Veronica, we covered Veronica when we were still in Milwaukee, and I didn't know Sam yet.
Okay.
Yeah,
it
that
was someone else that recommended that one to us.
Yeah, it was another friend of mine, I think, at the time who recommended that one. That one is done by Paco Plaza, which is one of the directors
our third
here.
Paco Plaza.
Our third Paco Plaza, and his creative partner and co-director, Jaume Balaguerro. And they're back after the success of 2007's Wreck, which was did very well in Spain and received some cult international fame. We all liked it.
It's a good movie.
Great late 2000s found footage film, and it did so well that they're like, well, we got to do another one immediately. And so they did, and Wreck 2 came out in 2009, a film that bravely dares to ask the question, what if Wreck more? But this time...
It's a musical.
No, this time it's a first-person shooter.
Right.
What's interesting to me is between this and the original Wreck, the American remake Quarantine came out.
Oh, yes, of
so
course.
they really capitalized on the popularity and followed it up pretty quickly.
I will say, on paper, the premise of this sequel is fine. They did essentially an Alien to Aliens.
Yeah, this
Right?
is your classic kind of sequel where it's just basically the same as the first one, but more bigger on the action, bigger on the scares, lighter on premise.
We've replaced our film crew and firefighters with an actual commando squad.
A SWAT team.
A SWAT team. We've replaced so our protagonists are largely military with a few fish out of water that they find along the way. And, there's a lot more action, there's a lot more shooting, there's more creatures, they go harder with the effects.
The directors specifically said they set out with the goal in mind to make this movie like a first-person shooter video game. They wanted it to evoke a video game. And I think in terms of how they accomplished their goal, they did it. Congrats, guys.
Two thumbs up. Good job.
It sure does look like a video game.
For better and for worse.
Yeah.
I think it feels paced almost more like an arcade shooter, like a House of the Dead.
House of the Dead,
like they round the corner,
deal.
something pops out, they shoot it, they round the corner, there's nothing, they round the corner again, a thing pops out. And it's always like with wild fanning, and their bullets are going everywhere in the scene.
Yeah, there's no precision to the shooting. It's all spray and pray.
Yeah, they're all stormtroopers.
Well, we should say, this is a found footage movie, and, with the first one, it was a camera crew that was filming a documentary. This one had the interesting idea of doing helmet cams. Yeah, exactly. Which kind of varies it up in an interesting way.
Yeah.
You still have kind of the motivated camera because all of the SWAT team have their own helmet cams.
And you can switch back and forth between them to get different perspectives.
You really get the first-person perspective.
They get a lot of mileage out of that.
Yeah. I do feel like that this movie was probably one of the... I don't want to say the first, but one of the earliest found footage style movies to do like a helmet / body cam. I can't think of many other films like prior to this that did that. It seems
a million came later.
yeah, I mean it's way more common now. But I think that, you know, it's an aesthetic that I don't think has aged the best. I mean, the kind of like you said, Ben, the first person shooter aesthetic is for better and for worse. Personally, for me, largely for worse. It's not necessarily what I want out of this movie. But I will say, like, credit to them for I don't know, kind of blazing the trail for that shit.
I tried Googling first body cam horror movie, and I just got a million results for just the horror movie body cam.
Yeah, perfect. Great. Google is so good now.
So helpful.
Yeah.
So it's so helpful now that the algorithm is all fucking AI.
Yeah, well, it's a double-edged sword, the first-person perspective, because I find, like, the action itself to be quite good. Mm-hmm. Like, the scares where we have multiple times where, like, zombie-possessed people, I guess you could say, are, like, running directly towards the camera.
Yeah.
And those sequences are really well shot, in my opinion. Like, they're aggressive and kind of abstract.
Yeah, I think it starts to lose its impact the more times they do it.
Yeah.
It's almost their only shtick at a certain point, but I agree. And I mean, like, the zombie makeup is pretty good, and with the very, you know, fast kinetic camera and the low lighting, like it looks good.
The contacts that they have them wearing in particular are really good. They're not just like all black contacts. They look like proper bloodshot eyes, like where there's no pupil, no iris left. It's just all blood. But at the edges, there's still bits of white. Like it looks great, man. Like,
yeah, I mean, I can say this definitively: Rec 2 is the best looking House of the Dead game I've ever seen in my life.
Like, Uwe Boll, look out! No contest there. But no, I will say, when it comes to the look of it, especially for a 2009 horror film and a 2009 found footage film, it has a really nice amount of variety and range in its visual style and color palette. You know, we've got a lot of the body cams off of the guys at the beginning, but like we do cut back to a regular camera for a little while, and then there's cutting into night vision. And between the body cams also, like the lighting changes on its own throughout sequences, and there's a lot of play with color in an era where it was still pretty popular to just put like a blue filter on everything. Mm-hmm. And so it was pretty gratifying, like having those nice scenes where it's like there's like a nice balance of warm and cool, and it's usually like worked into the scene. Frankly, yeah, visually this movie's great. Like I really had it's pleasant to look at. It's nice. And makes up for the kinetic constant shaking camera.
Yeah.
It's paced. Like when the action kicks up, the demons are coming through. It's all shaky and nasty, and we're moving. With just those little moments of impact where we kind of see what's going on for a second, and it's shaky again. But then when it pauses and we slow down for a little bit, you get this really nice like framed shots that they feel natural, but still really pleasant to look at.
Yeah, it's a bit of a double-edged sword though, because when it slows down, we get more of the story, and I think the story is very weak.
That is correct.
Yeah, I think it's
right.
I think it's important to distinguish when you say that it's paced. Yeah, in terms of like the action and the cutting, the editing.
Yes, that is specifically what I mean. Thank you.
Narratively paced.
No good.
I would say quite bad, even.
No good.
Quite bad. And we can there's one big moment about midway through the film that really demolishes the pacing, and we can get to that.
We should wait on that, but I have a lot to say about that as well.
Yeah. So for folks who maybe have not seen these movies or haven't listened to our episode on the first rec, I mean, of course, go back and listen to that.
Spoilers for the first track.
Yes, I've no way to talk about this movie without it. But broad strokes of that film is, you know, it follows a sort of local access news crew who are shadowing firefighters. They get called to an emergency at this old apartment building. They end up getting locked in by the police because there's a zombie outbreak. At the end, they go into the penthouse at the top, and it's sort of revealed that, the big reveal is that the the zombie virus isn't just like a normal disease, it's demonic in nature. And it, ends with our protagonist, our news anchor, being dragged off into the darkness by a big gangly ghoul. And this movie picks up pretty much right there. In fact, it even repeats that. It starts with that same last shot of her being dragged off, and then, we cut to our SWAT team as they're going in, whatever. They go in with a guy who initially claims to be from the Ministry of Health, but once they get into the penthouse and start looking around and see all the weird Catholic and occult stuff, they do this absolutely bonkers reveal.
It turns out he's not from the Ministry of Health.
He's from the Vatican.
They pull him up against the wall.
Ministry of Catholicism.
He whips off his protective guard and
his jacket, and he's got
priest collar.
Yeah, he's got a priest collar underneath.
It's so silly and over the top. It's so.
It's like an unmasking kind of.
No, it is.
Like
reveal.
A big reveal. Yeah, Clark Kent with a Superman. Like, oh my God, he's a priest.
And basically, the whole crux of the story is that his mission is he has to get the blood of the demon, of the girl possessed by the demon, Patient Zero, so that the Vatican can continue to experiment and find a vaccine for demonic possession. And so he has to, with the help of this SWAT team who doesn't know what they're in for, they have to confront the evils of the devil and so on.
I feel like that's a weird Catholic cost-cutting measure. Trying to find an antidote to demonic possession. It's like, oh, well, we can't pay all of these exorcists, so we might as well just find a nice little
There's not enough
shot
exorcists to go around, so we gotta manufacture the vax.
There was a movie I really hated that came out a couple years ago. I'm trying to remember the name of it. It was a Blomkamp movie.
Demonic.
Yeah, thank you. That is the name of it. Where they do this whole setup that there's a squad. There's a squad of commandos that are also priests.
Vatican
commandos that are sent in to hunt the demon that the film has been setting up. And they do this whole cool montage with them, and it's a big reveal, it's a big lead up. And then we cut away from them, and we cut back, and they've all been killed. So we don't see any of the scene in the movie. Spoilers for fucking Demonic, but, they didn't show the coolest part of that movie.
Yeah.
Was, like Catholic Commando Squad. And I will say, if you, like me, saw that movie and felt like you were missing something out of that, I think this movie delivers on that corny bullshit.
Yeah, I mean, kind of.
There's some cool, there's some bits where, one of the squad guys gets infected and they're trying to figure out what's going on with him, and the priest, we haven't revealed it's a priest yet, hucks him into a room and they lock the door behind him, and he puts a knife in the door and he hangs a rosary over it, and then suddenly there's silence and he stops banging on the door. It works. And I thought that was so stupid. It's so corny, but to me, it comes back around and it's kind of funny again. It's kind of fun.
I mean, the idea of a demonic possession plague of sorts,
it's fun,
is interesting. I think the movie from last year, When Evil Lurks, does it much better.
Yeah.
This is a very dumbed down version
Yeah.
of that.
Oh, it's
And,
dumb.
You know, like, I'm okay with a movie like this being dumb since it's such a roller coaster ride, you know, especially with all the kinetic first person stuff. The problem is, again, like, they slow down too much to kind of narratively explain the stuff.
There's a lot of just bogged down in exposition.
And you know, I don't mind the idea of this movie being dumb, but it does come as somewhat of a disappointment, just like how dumb it is as a follow-up to the first one made by the same people. The first one is like very nicely paced. I think it's like the perfect like drip feed of information and discovery. And yeah, they unload a lot of exposition in like the very last scene of that movie. And it's one of my only issues with the movie. And I remember harping on it in our episode where we talked about it. But like for the rest of it, like I think it just like, it's very nicely subtle. It doesn't overplay its hand. It keeps it simple. It's character driven. And like it's it's not a cerebral film by any means, but it's clever, it's smart, and it's smartly written and paced. And this movie is just not that. It's just like I feel like they took all of the wrong lessons from the first one. They're like, we're going to take the last 5 minutes of this movie, by far the dumbest part of this movie, and make that the entire next movie.
Yeah,
and
well, that's the thing. Like, the twist at the end of the first track, like, arguably is, like, uncharacteristically dumb compared to the rest of that movie. So in a sense, it kind of makes sense that, like, they follow it up with something similarly dumb, but at the same time, it is very much a different tone than the first, and that is disappointing.
And I just don't think that the characters are very interesting either. At least half of them. The SWAT guys are entirely interchangeable.
Yeah.
Can't tell the difference between them whatsoever. The priest is totally one note.
Yeah, the amount of times he says, our mission isn't over yet.
Yeah, I have to complete my mission. We have to record everything.
Keep the camera rolling.
Yeah, we have to find the blood. We have to get the blood. Keep the camera rolling. We have to record everything. I must finish my mission. Blah 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 blah. There's zero arc to his character at all throughout the entire movie, and it's just like, it's not interesting.
We used to do found footage bingo. I don't remember everything that was on the bingo card. I could look it up later, but right at the center was just keep the camera rolling.
Oh yeah, I mean,
like right at the center of bingo. Like there's a lot of those.
Yeah, that's the free space.
And
yeah,
honestly,
exactly.
like, for the first half an hour of this movie, I gave that a pass because, you know, again, helmet cameras.
There's some novel. There's some novelty
really
to it.
Creatively too, because like at times, like they'll show their different perspective, like picture in picture, with like their own little HUDs and everything, and like, it gives the characters a chance to see what's happening to other characters that might not be there. The problem is, like, that kind of devolves pretty quickly to the point where, like, they kind of abandon that by, like, the halfway point.
Well, there's also just not a lot of variety, is there? You know, like, especially for, like, the first half of this movie, a lot of it is just, like, running from apartment to apartment that all pretty much look identical, and encountering largely little demon children. Like the number of times they recycle, like them being unwilling to kill one of the demons because it's a child, and then the child bites somebody's throat out, and then so they blow its head off. It's like the number of times they do some shit like that. It's just like I don't know. It's just like it's lacking creativity. It's like, how many times can I see basically the same scene over and over again?
They wrote themselves into a bit of a corner too, because like at the end of the first movie, like pretty much everyone is dead.
Yeah.
You know, so you don't have new human characters for the SWAT team and the priest to interface with. It's almost all just zombies. They do try to bring in new human characters in, again, at about the halfway point. But man,
let's go ahead and get into that, because we've largely covered the narrative up to that point. And yeah, I think this is the biggest structural issue with this movie, is that like as the SWAT team is coming out of like the penthouse, because at the very beginning, before they go in, we see like the man coming back from the pharmacy with his bag, which is, you know, a callback to the first movie where the little girl was sick and her mother was like, oh yeah, my husband went out to the pharmacy to get medication for my sick daughter. So we see him, and he somehow gets into the building and runs up, and the SWAT team shoots him and then throws him over the railing to go.
Which I found pretty funny,
yeah. To go to there's some funny moments in this for sure.
Isn't that the same thing that happened in the first movie?
Well, I mean, no. in the first one, they're all sort of down in the lobby, and a body falls from above and splats.
Yeah, in the same spot.
In the same spot. Yeah, we see the blood pool from it in this movie. So, I mean, yeah, somebody falls from the stairwell and splats on the floor. It's not done quite the same in this movie. Anyway, when they look over the railing, they see another group of people a few stories down with cameras who then run off. And then they bring the movie to a grinding halt and cut to the perspective. They cut back in time to the perspective of our second group of characters who have not been introduced up until fully halfway through this movie. And it's a group of kids who are doing pranks for a YouTube channel or something, and they see the SWAT team surrounding the building, and they decide to sneak into the building for reasons. They go into the sewers.
Yeah, Well, it introduces them because they are trying to use a sex doll, and
they're trying to Buzz Lightyear it. They're trying to launch the sex doll off the rail, off the balcony, off the top of the building with bottle rockets.
Yeah.
But, you know, like, I talked about earlier, like, how cool, like, the helmet cams and the motivated camera is. Like, once we get to the second half, like, the complete opposite is true. Like, there's no reason for them to film after this opening sequence.
Yeah, I mean, this is just, like, a baffling change of pace for this movie. Like, I don't necessarily have a problem with
getting some new blood in there.
Yeah, having some other characters, some civilian characters, some young characters. I don't even mind how they set them up with them trying to Buzz Lightyear this inflatable sex doll. Like, yeah, it's a dumb prank that kids would do. Like, all of this is fine. It's when they choose to set this up. Like, there's no good reason. Like, if you're gonna have multiple perspectives, then set them both up at the beginning and cut back and forth between them for some variety, for some fucking variety. To just spend half of the movie following one group of characters and then slam on the brakes to then what basically feels like starting the movie over.
Yeah.
Halfway through, and then have to go through all of that setup again with all of these new characters and follow them forever while nothing happens.
And they're not memorable or likable characters.
No, and it's like, why do, at this point in the movie, why do I care? Well, if you're starting me with these people, then maybe I can grow to care about them. But just, like, tossing them in as almost an afterthought halfway through the film is just, like, so confusing.
Well, especially when it's followed by, it's following, like, Commando Squad, shoot, pow, pow, action, non-stop demon slaying. And then all of a sudden it's like,
kids with bottle rockets.
You know, to join the Conamblin, and it's like, I mean, Frank, switch the two up, you know? Like,
yeah, honestly,
start the movie.
If they simply would have swapped those.
Well, I think so too, because like the movie starts like we said with like the lady getting dragged off into the darkness, and it's all scary. So then you show us some kids, and we're like, we're worried for them, we're concerned. But yeah, they hardly resolve. I will say there's one cool sequence that does have setup and payoff where they finally do get into the apartment. They find a gun. They find some other people
through the
sewer
somehow, because you can just get into apartment complexes via the sewer.
They don't leave from the sewer.
They very conveniently cut after they enter the sewers to just them being in the apartment.
Yeah, it's the whole thing. But they get up through there, blah blah blah.
They find a gun.
They encounter an evil demon lady, an old lady who's been possessed or whatever. And I do love this bit. It makes no sense. It's really stupid. But they stick like a Roman candle or like something in her mouth, and they light it. And then she runs down the hall as it's like spraying sparks out of her mouth until finally, and like running into the walls, bouncing around. There's fucking big sparks spraying everywhere. And then she falls over and it goes off, and like there's a big boom and her head explodes. It's so dumb, but pretty delightful.
It's pretty funny,
It's
I will
well
say.
done. It looks good.
And it's like, if you're gonna go, if you're gonna like commit to doing a whole movie around this dumb nonsense, then I would like to see more of that. Frankly, like lean into that if you're gonna go dumb, because like when we see them tape like 3 or 4 of these big bottle rockets to the inflatable sex doll during their introduction, like it doesn't launch off, like it just kind of burns a hole in the sex doll and just like drapes over the railing. But then when they put one of these, I think they stab it into the zombie's eye. I don't think it's in her mouth. I think they put it in her eye, and they light that. It's like it's pushing her down the hallway. It's like
it's great,
very
and
powerful.
it's making like cartoon fireworks sound effects. Like,
Remind me what happens to them after that? How does their story end?
well, they meet up with the one with like the regular police officer. At the beginning, and then they get attacked by another zombie at some point, and the girl picks up the gun. And this is another moment that I will say I thought was pretty funny. And the cop is like being pinned up against a wall by this zombie, and they're like shoot him, and she like takes the gun and she just completely misses the zombie and domes the cop. And and after that, one of the kids gets bitten, and then the priest shows up and they duct tape the kid because they.
Oh yeah, that's right. They finally use the kid for more demon information to find out.
Yeah, because
where
a couple
the
of
source demon
times,
is.
the patient zero demon, like all of the other people who are infected are like her thralls or whatever. Like she can speak through them, and so the priest is like trying to find where patient zero is so he can get her blood. And so like he's been like trying to talk to the demon through these other infected people. So they finally I'm forgetting the order of things. So much of this movie blends together.
They're looking for the original girl because they want to take her blood to make an antidote, because they originally had a vial of it because the original guy kept it in like a mini fridge up in the air
an
ducts.
air duct. Yeah. I will say I kind of liked that scene where he's like crawling up there and he gets it and he like looks down the air duct and there's like a little demon child at the end that starts like coming for him. He's like, oh no, and he manages to close a gate, and then there's just like 5 of them on the other side of the gate,
that was fun.
clawing and screaming.
Yeah, I like that there's a
I didn't like that immediately after they got the blood, the priest demands to test it, pours out literally over half the vial into a little ashtray. And
and he holds a crucifix over it and says some prayers.
Espiritu set this on fire, saying.
And it just bursts into the blood bursts into flame. He's like, yes, it's the demon blood. We got it. And then the rest of the blood in the vial that one of the SWAT guys is holding
also combusts.
Also combusts. And they're like, no, now we don't have the blood.
I think that's fun. I think it's silly and stupid.
It's dumb, yeah.
It feels contrived.
It's like a comedy of errors.
Like
it sort of makes the priest like real stupid.
Yeah,
like real dumb.
Something we haven't mentioned, but like after they let them in, all the cops and everything outside locked the building back down, and only the priest is able to let them out because he has to do like a voice recognition thing.
Authenticated
through the radio, so if anybody else says to let them out, they can't do it. It has to be him.
But there's also just a regular lady on the other side too that they communicate with from time to time.
Right.
So why does it have to like also be gated through a robot? Like, there's a perfectly good person on the other side. Like, it's
So that's the contrivance that they use to keep these people trapped in this building when everyone's like, we need to get out of here, and the priest is like, no, I must finish my mission. You have to record everything, by the way. Don't stop recording.
Would y'all are more familiar with his work than I am. Would you say that all this kind of silly shit is Kojima-esque?
No.
No? Okay.
No. This is tame for Kojima.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's
Kojima-
not galaxy brained.
Kojima is way more creative
Yeah.
than this. He's way more creative than this. Yeah, at some point, I'm forgetting the order of things because so much of this is blending together. But there's another reveal about 25 minutes from the end when surprise, our protagonist from the first movie shows up. She's not dead. Somehow she survived. And they do the reveal with her. It's another just like really strangely handled reveal that feels like it's like out of a different movie. Because, like, they cut out the sound and they, like, turn the camera down the hall and it's out and you see a figure, like, slowly walking down the hall towards the camera. And as she finally comes into focus, it's her.
yeah.
And she's holding the camera from that she and her camera guy were using. She's holding it like a gun. So it's like when she's walking down the hall, it's like I could almost hear like the Terminator music.
The power of
Dun 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 dun. It's like a Sarah.
I got one last mission.
It's like a Sarah Connor kind of reveal, you know? It's weird. And then she just immediately goes to like wailing and screaming. It's like they give her this sort of like badass reveal, like, oh my god, she's still alive. And then she just immediately becomes like useless, pathetic woman. And it's like, that's not what she was in the first movie.
Yeah, it's a shame.
Yeah, I don't know. But anyway, so one of the kids gets bitten and they duct tape him to a chair and the priest is interrogating him and like, where are you, demon? I must know where you are. It's like, to find me, you must solve my riddle.
What is light but not dark?
But dark
and
and-
dark
yeah.
in the light and dark. And dark light, dark. Aha! Darkness.
The light doesn't reveal the path. And he's like,
what
and-
would it be? Solve my riddles, one.
and the priest is like, oh, of course. She's up in the penthouse. And they're like, no, we were up there and there was nobody there. It's like, but we had our lights on. She must only... The God keeps all of demons locked in a prison of darkness where light cannot reflect. So if we go up there and turn off our lights, then we'll be able to find her.
Okay, so for the audience, Tisa's like rambling there sounded like probably like he's really hamming it up. That's almost not even paraphrasing. You got it pretty damn close to what the priest said.
It's basically, it's
Like,
basically that.
It is delightfully head ass. I think
Now-
it's so stupid.
Now, look, I think that conceptually, this could be cool.
Yes.
It's very Fatal Frame-esque, you know, like take
Yeah.
pictures of the ghost.
I think it'd be cool in a different
bring
movie.
Well, they did.
This
they,
idea alone is one movie.
They did
You
make
got it.
that. Did you ever see that movie Lights Out that came out a few years ago?
Nope.
It was.
Covered it for the podcast.
No, we didn't.
Lights out?
No, we
Yeah,
didn't.
We did.
Are you sure?
100%.
I don't think we did.
I'm gonna look it up. I'm pretty sure we
We're
did.
getting old.
I am like 90% sure we never covered Lights Out. But anyway, it's a Night Swim style movie that's based off of a YouTube short.
Got it.
Where like there's a demon or a ghost or something, but it's invisible when the lights are on. So the short is basically like a guy going to bed and like turns off the light, and down at the end of the hall there's like a silhouette. He turns the light on and there's nothing there. He turns the light off and it's there again. It's a little closer. They turned this into a feature-length film.
Yeah.
That I'm quite certain we did not cover on the
Okay,
podcast.
no, I was mistaken because this came out in 2016, which
Yeah.
was I think before we started
pre-podcast, yes, and we never went back. We would have no reason to ever go back and cover that movie.
I forgot about it literally like 2 weeks after it came out.
So another movie did kind of do this thing where you can only see the demon when the lights are off, and I do think that there's a cool idea in there, this idea that, like, God imprisons demons, like, in a realm of darkness. Like, I think there's something there, but you have to do it in a cooler way than this movie does.
I do think the way that they introduce it is, again, it's corny, but it is at least fun. And that is when they head back up into the penthouse, they turn on night vision for the first time, and suddenly down the hall, there's a door.
There's a door at the end,
before. So I think they get some points back that it's not just the demon is imprisoned, but also, like, there are aspects of reality that can only be seen in the dark.
Yeah.
Again, I think a whole movie of that is pretty neat.
They're a good idea. And again, this feels very video gamey.
Yes.
Like, how many video games?
Switch visions,
yeah, you have to switch your vision or in and out of, like, different realities in order to solve platforming puzzles and shit like this. Like, it all feels very video gamey. And I will say, it is kind of refreshing that at least something creative is happening at this point in the movie. Like, it's not smart. It's dumb, but at least it's not just SWAT guys running around a bunch of interchangeable apartments shooting a bunch of zombie kids, right? Mm-hmm. And I do like the big gangly ghoul demon. I think that makeup is good. And I like the little glimpse of her that we get at the end of the first one, and then there's a lot of them wandering around in the dark while she's also wandering around in the dark. But the makeup looks good. It looks spooky.
I like when she comes up and sniffs the camera.
Yeah, that's really gross. I like that she's still wandering around with the same claw hammer that she had in the first one. I will say for lack of a better term, water bed that she's sleeping in when they come in is kind of head ass.
Oh, the vat.
Yeah.
So you think the priest would have caught it better because he's from the Vatican, but anyway. So they come up on it. Yeah, they're looking at it in night vision. Like, oh, there's like a pool of water there, and one of the SWAT guys who was like up until now like very nervous about being there is suddenly very cool about approaching the water that definitely has a monster in it. Yeah. And he goes up to the water. He's like, oh, what's this? And then, like, a hand comes up and pulls him in, and they say, oh shit, quick! And they turn the lights back on, and there isn't a vat there at all. And he's gone. It was like there's like a table in that spot. He like got just yorked into another reality, and I think that's fun. It is also like right out of the Insane Asylum popular.
Oh, Grave Encounters.
It's right.
Grave Encounters.
So the scene in Grave Encounters, it is exactly like it. A guy gets
That's
pulled
true.
into a tub out of reality.
I just kind of wish, like, as dumb as it is, I almost wish they'd introduced this like way earlier in the movie, and then they sort of have an excuse to turn like the whole fucking apartment building into like a weird House of Leaves kind of deal.
Yeah. Because there's a lot of material and there's a lot of cool ideas here.
And
like, the whole movie's worth of ideas in like this one little thing.
And again, it's like it's dumb the way they handle it, but like if you're gonna lean into the dumb stuff to begin with, then I say lean the fuck into it and give us more of that, because I think that, sort of contrary to the first film, like the last 15 minutes of this movie is like the most entertaining part.
But yeah, after the door and after the vat, she sniffs around.
Yeah, they
deal with her.
They're like,
and they don't do anything else with that idea, right? Of the night vision.
No, not really. They're like, yeah, she can't see us in the dark. So as long as we don't make a sound, then she can't find us. So then, we get kind of a long scene of them just like standing there quietly as she's like wandering around with her hammer.
That's blocked really interesting, because she comes in, she moves past all of them, it's all one shot, and then she moves off to the left, and as soon as she moves off to the left of the camera, she's like 4 feet away.
Yeah.
The priest to the right his radio starts going off. Pretty standard fare. You know, people are trying to hide, trying to be quiet, and the radio goes off. And he starts clambering at it, and it just keeps going off, and he just keeps clambering at it.
For like
it just
30
keeps going off, and he
seconds.
keeps clambering at it. And again, she's like right there. She's off screen though, and then suddenly she appears behind him. But it goes on it's weirdly paced.
We
like
see
that.
her.
That's
Yeah,
right.
we see her exit, like you said, to the left of the screen.
Mm-hmm.
The priest is on the right, and when she does finally attack, she comes over his left shoulder.
Which I kind of like. She's dimension shit. She's a demon.
Yeah,
she's coming
I mean,
from-
I guess
like
it's-
it's a good. It's
yeah.
that part's fine. It's really just like how long it takes for her to get there.
How long? But I mean, it feels like a clumsy blocking thing to me because
yeah.
I
it's.
think my theory is that he's clambering at his radio for so long because they're doing it as a oneer that they have to wait for her to get
circle
all the way
around behind
to get
him.
into
Yeah,
that spot for it to be
absolutely.
a reveal. So like. Some movie magic probably would have been better, you know, like for the
Yeah.
reveal to be as terrifying.
Yeah, well, they kind
It's a
of
little clumsy.
again wrote themselves into a corner because they only had one night vision cam going on.
Right.
So they couldn't cut between
Yeah.
just to fix time or whatever. Yeah, but
Do y'all
even
remember?
still, like that same scene is where we get like her makeup really well shown off.
do
and it
y'all
looks great.
remember what? Sorry.
No credit.
Do y'all remember what happened to the other kids who didn't get possessed by the demon?
I think they just forgot
We
about it.
just watched.
what I was asking
We
about
just
earlier.
watched this movie, and I cannot for the life. What happened to them? Because when they go back up to the penthouse, it's just the one remaining SWAT guy, or no, sorry, the two remaining SWAT guys, the priest, and our reporter from the first movie. What happened to those other kids?
Yeah,
Did
I
I
left
miss?
them
I was kind of
downstairs
embarrassed to
hang
ask.
out.
I thought I might have just missed it.
Yeah, they
Like,
left
there's-
him downstairs to hang out with the taped up demon friend.
Yeah, did they just cut from that scene to them in the penthouse and the kids aren't with them anymore?
Basically,
Did I miss?
yeah.
Did we miss something? I don't know. That might be on us, but
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Anyway,
anyway, yeah. So there's a struggle with the patient zero demon in the dark, and one of them, I think the reporter, she
It's the
has
reporter,
the
yeah.
she has the shotgun. She blows the demon's head off.
and the priest is upset by this. He is like, "What have you done? We needed her to take her back to the Vatican." It's like, motherfucker, there's plenty of blood there.
Well, yeah,
That's all
he's
you
like,
needed.
he's like, I needed her blood. I need her blood. It's like, there are literally,
Scoop it up.
there are literally
Right there.
pints of her blood gouting from her
Yeah.
open
Give it a
neck
sip.
hole.
It's right there, yeah, like-
yeah, bend down and grab some. In fact, if anything, it's easier now. But so they're like, okay, well, she's dead. There's nothing to be done. Let us out now. And the priest is like, no, my mission. It's not complete. We have to keep recording everything. I have yet to finish my mission.
Just shaking my head.
And the reporter girl just starts kicking the absolute piss out of him and being like, I want out, blah, 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 blah. I think she shoots our cameraman, so the camera falls to the floor and the priest falls down conveniently right next to the camera, and she kind of straddles him. And we're like, oh, wait a sec, like something seems off. And then she starts doing demon laughter. And it's like,
Oh my god!
it's like, oh my god,
Twist,
she's
son,
been
twist.
possessed. And he's like, the priest is like, how did you do it? It's not possible. And she's like, turns out I don't even need you to get out of here. I can just mimic your voice. And so she does, and she tells the person over the radio, she's like, she pretends to be the priest. She's like, I am bitten and infected, so I'm going to stay here and die. There's just one woman left, so you have to let her out. And then the demon, like, basically winks at the camera.
Yeah,
And-
it's kind of goofy.
It's yeah, but and then we get a cut back to the very opening shot of the film, which is the closing shot of the previous film, of her being dragged away into the darkness, but this time it doesn't cut. The shot goes on, and we see her then immediately after being dragged into the darkness, thrown back out of the darkness to land by the camera, and then the demon ghoul comes over and bends over her and vomits a large slug down her throat.
It does a Jason Goes to Hell.
Sure, why not? I will say
It doesn't shave her face first like in Jason Goes to Hell, but it's the worm from one mouth into another to transfer the soul of the demon. It's Jason.
Yeah,
Goes to
I
Hell.
will say though it is kind of goofy. I do think
It's pretty gross. The effects.
I think the shot it looks good.
it looks great.
Yeah.
I love like when it's like clawing at her mouth and like pulling her.
I like the shot itself, but it feels so unnecessary for the movie.
I mean, yeah.
I feel like the movie should have just ended with her looking directly at the camera. Hard cut.
At this point, we're like 6 contrivances.
But they had to answer the priest's question. How did the original demon get into the reporter? How did it happen? Well, it happened at the end of the first movie when she threw up her demon slug into her throat. So she was the actual real demon all along. And the ghoul, the big ghoul, was just one of her puppets. Oh my god, you guys.
Who cares?
What a fucking twist!
Who fucking cares?
What a fucking twist!
We did it. That's right.
Yeah, that's Rec 2.
The last in the series to be found footage.
That's crazy.
Yeah, the name is Wreck, like the recording.
That's
Rec
crazy.
4 are not found footage movies.
Is it the same director?
I
Yes.
believe so.
At least for 3. I know they came back for 3. I don't know about 4.
Yeah, well,
Nice.
Rec 3 apparently is supposed to be set at the same time as the first Rec, but somewhere else. And then Rec 4 is a direct continuation of Rec 2.
Doesn't setting the third one at somewhere else kind of defeat the purpose of like this apartment building being like the ground zero of the outbreak or whatever? We haven't seen it. I don't think we need to.
Yeah, so it's funny. Rec 2, it's a duo. It's Paco Plaza and the other guy.
Yeah.
And so Rec 3 is just Paco Plaza.
Just Paco Plaza, okay.
And Rec 4 is just the other guy.
Oh no, what happened? Did they break up?
They
Because I know Veronica was just Paco Plaza as well, without Jaume.
maybe they found they were just better on their own, and
Well,
who knows?
I think if it,
who knows?
I don't think they're better on their own. Yeah, Veronica was not very good.
No, it wasn't.
Just like while I'm thinking about this, the last thing I can think of that is it's kind of a nitpick, but it bugged the shit out
Here
of me.
on this podcast,
Whatever.
picking nits, we never do that.
Yeah, this is just like this was just something that kind of drove me crazy. Is that it's a found footage movie, right? Where like what we as the audience are seeing is supposed to be just what was recorded via the cameras. But at numerous points in this movie, they treat the audio like it's what the actual people are hearing and not the camera. Like multiple times in this movie, when like like a grenade or something goes off or a gun, they'll do like an ear ringing sound where like the audio becomes muffled in the camera. And it's like, if it's just the camera, it wouldn't do that.
Yeah, they do that a couple of times. They also kind of have weird moments where like the audio will like cut out and we'll hear like creepy whispering, and it's like does not feel diegetic. This feels like you're just trying to emphasize.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, and sometimes they'll even do it where it's not after like an explosion or a loud noise, but where it's sort of like a dramatic moment where the audio will become muffled, like you will see in movies when a character is like in shock and kind of like dissociating. But again, it's supposed to be from the perspective of the cameras. So why are they doing these audio effects on like I don't know. It's such a minor thing that if the movie was generally better, I would be more forgiving of, but when I'm kind of frustrated by a lot of other things, it just like that kind of shit stands out. Do y'all have anything else you want to say about Rec 2? Wrecker?
Rec Boogaloo.
In the second half, the cameraman
to
guy.
Rec Avenue.
The second half, the cameraman guy has got to be the least helpful character. He was just standing around filming all this.
Yeah. Well, they again, it's a minor thing that is just kind of a dumb contrivance, but like when they are looking around like the penthouse with the night vision on, the camera guy is the only one who has the night vision, so he's the only one who can see, but he's always behind everybody else.
The scene can be staged and blocked.
Right, so you can see the other characters in front of him on screen, but in reality it would make the most sense to have the only one who can see go ahead of everybody else. Mm-hmm. And they could even crowd over his shoulder and look at the viewfinder of the camera, right?
Man, they all have these helmet cams, like.
No. At this point, all they have left is the reporter's camera.
Sure,
all of
but
the helmet
they
cams have
introduced
been.
the helmet cams. Like they could have easily kept those in to use those.
Right.
Have multiple perspectives.
Yeah.
Oh, it's fine.
But whatever.
Yeah, fuck it. Ratings. Can I go?
Sure.
3.
Me too.
Solid. It's good. Again, like
it's watchable. It's fine.
The color palette. There's a lot of silly, creative, goofy ideas in this movie.
Yeah, it's a 3 from me too.
Okay.
Some funny moments.
Keep it simple. Yeah, it's not unwatchable by any means, but
fine.
it's certainly pales in comparison to the first one, I think. Well, that's an unanimous 3 out of 5 for Rec 2. What's next week, Ben? It's your
week
pick.
Is my pick.
What are we talking about?
I'm gonna pick one of my personal favorite B movies.
Ooh.
A movie
I can go for
that
a B.
I really adore. It's a low budget, strange, fun movie called Class of 1999.
Oh, I've seen it.
I showed it to you.
That's why I've seen it.
I have not seen it.
Yes, you're in for a treat.
I don't know anything about this movie.
I bought the Blu-ray and everything.
Wow.
Oh, man.
It's technically a sequel to the movie Class of 1984, but trust me, you do not need to see it.
Okay.
He's right.
It is one of those ones where it's the same but more in a way that I will...
Oh, man.
that will become very clear, and I'll explain further.
A Silent Night, Deadly Night 2 kind of deal?
It's not a clip show, by any means.
Okay.
But it's like, you take the premise of the original and turn the amplifier up to 11.
Okay.
It's wet and wild.
Oh, I'm always down to get wet and wild.
I had forgotten about it. I'm slowly re-remembering it, and oh man, yeah,
Yes.
it's a goober.
Malcolm McDowell is in it.
Oh, I'm sold.
Pam Grier.
I'm totally in. All right, well, join us next week for our review of the Class of 1999. Is that right?
Yep.
Sweet. Cleveland, you want to do us a sponsor really quick?
Yeah, I can do a quick sponsor from the shelf of pain and torment.
And suffering.
It speaks to us. It speaks to me, and through my lips to your ears, I say, Big Soup! That's the sponsor of this episode this week. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. We finally got him. We got Big Soup. And if you think that Big Soup is filling our pockets with soup, you're right. They are. They're full of soup, and soon yours will be too.
Big Soup is finally filling our pockets with big bucks. And now when people can
they're really wet.
When people accuse us in our podcast of being in the pockets of Big Soup,
Big Soup is in our pockets.
yeah, we can't even deny it any longer.
No, it's true. We can't. It's true. We've been really working at this sponsorship for a long time. It's been a lot of hard work, and
this is really a
wheeling
milestone,
and dealing and souping to get here, but we've done it.
We wouldn't have been able to do it without the help of our lovely listeners.
Soups up for the summer.
Soups up. All right, that'll do it for us this week. Don't forget to leave us a 5-star rating and review wherever you're listening to this. Become a Patreon subscriber at patreon.com/podpeoplepod. Shout out to our honorary pod boys, Sam, Zach, Micah, Mitchell, and Jans. Special shout out to Sam for picking the film that we talked about this week.
Yeah, I'm glad I watched it.
If you want to pick movies for us to talk about, then yeah, head on over to Patreon and sign up and get in the Discord and come hang out with us. We're always looking for more people to get in the wet
It's
pool.
interesting. It's fun. It's definitely not a Patreon.
Oh my god.
Nope, not here.
All right, we need to wrap this up so I can put myself out of my misery. You can follow
At least
us, of
until
course.
next week.
You go, of course, follow us at letterboxd.com/podpeoplepod, where you'll find a list of all the films we've talked about in the show with our average ratings and links to those reviews. In terms of recommendations, I've mostly been doing the same stuff, but I've also been playing this little indie game called Jusant.
Ooh, great
Have
game.
you played that?
I beat it. Yeah.
Yeah,
it's very
I feel
fun.
like I'm getting close. I can't. You might have recommended it a couple of weeks ago on the show. I can't remember for sure, but very simple, sort of zen mountain climbing game.
Yeah, they found a way to make climbing mechanics engaging, which is pretty impressive, honestly.
Yeah, it's not particularly difficult, but it's relaxing and it's beautifully animated. Looks very nice. It's been a nice counterbalance to Baldur's Gate, which I've also just been continuing to play a ton of.
I'm also going to recommend a game. I picked up this new game, Go Mecha Ball.
I just downloaded
it's
that.
on Game Pass, so anyone with Game Pass can try it.
So is Jusant. I meant to say that.
Go Mecha Ball is a combination rolling platformer, twin stick shooter, and roguelike. It is a super fast paced, just mile a minute, sort of frenetic twitch shooter. I have a feeling Go Mecha Ball is fairly short. Right before I came over here, I beat my first run, and I've played it for a total of like 4 or 5 hours. So, I don't think the whole game is huge, but it's very good and worth checking out.
You got anything, Cleve?
Yes. Last week, Dread Delusion put out the new Clockwork Kingdom update with all sorts of new cool creatures. There's a sentient cannon. There's a spider knight automaton. All sorts of cool stuff. Yeah. Dread Delusion fucking rules. Awesome. Earnestly awesome game. Gorgeous art style. Incredibly weird and fun. Everything you should really want out of an indie game. Highly recommended. Go check it out.
All right. Thanks for listening. And until next time, remember to never, ever stop recording. Never give up on your mission.
Best soup.
You have to record everything forever.
Now in the street there is violence, and lots of work to be done. No place to hang out or washing, and I can't blame all on the sun. Oh no, we're gonna rock down to Electric Avenue.